Now, every 42nd, it is reported that someone ends their life. That's almost 800,000 individuals per year worldwide, with low and middle income nations accounting for more than 75% of all suicides. That is according to statistics from the World Health Organization. Suicide is a worldwide concern and a major public health issue in every country. To this end, September the 10th is dedicated as a World Suicide Prevention Day. The goal is to promote global commitment to suicide prevention. Now, the theme for this year is creating hope through action. It is a positive message that tries to motivate people to interact, as suicide can be prevented when people share mental health stories, raising awareness in communities. This will help more people to understand the warning signals and take tiny but significant steps in preventing one more person from ending their life. Now, joining me is mental health advocate Oluwaseun Dosunmu. He is also the executive director across all initiative for mental health and stigma eradication. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Right. Now, let's begin with, can suicide be prevented? Yes, the focus this year is creating hope through action. Yeah. What kinds of action can prevent suicide?
Okay, can suicide be prevented? Yes, I agree to that. And you know, I like the theme that says creating hope through action. And that's because when we begin to change our behaviors, the way we treat people, there's a high chance that we just might be saving lives. And one of the things I've been advocating for, recently is that we need to begin to equip ourselves with knowledge. And when I say knowledge, I mean knowledge on, psychotherapy, knowledge on mental health matters. We don't have to be experts. We don't have to do the blame game and pass the buck to the experts only. We have a role to play because every day each individual interacts with the society, and they interact with family, friends, neighbors, colleagues. So all of these people or individuals stand, a great chance of saving a life.
But interaction cannot really give you a picture of what is going on with someone, because a lot of people can put up a front of being fine.
Yeah.
And something is going on within them.
Yeah.
So how do you begin to identify that something is wrong with this person and I should relate with them carefully, such that I don't, stigmatize or cause anything to make this person feel worse than they are already feeling?
Okay, so this is one of the bane of the situation. Many Nigerians are not very courteous, especially when they address people. They are very harsh, insensitive to emotions, and they kind of aggravate, these thoughts. You go to the offices, bosses are, overly, they stigmatize you, they put you through undue pressure. You go back home, your wife that is supposed to be loving is not attentive.
That should be both ways, actually.
So I'm just I'm going to talk about the husband who is supposed to also be sensitive to the wife's emotions, who decides not to be sensitive, and then all of this accumulates and then becomes an issue. So we can prevent all of this if we begin to, then it's a deliberate act, because people they would always leave you signs. Like
what kind of signs?
They will leave signs. I've heard instances of somebody owning up that he lost his relative to suicide, despite acknowledging the signs. Now, someone who is usually socially active, decides not to be active, doesn't find pleasure in things he or she usually would, find pleasure in. Then you have to begin to realize, as friends, you are not just friends for the sake of friends. You are friends because you can understand when things are flipping the other way. And that's how, we can really intervene. I'll share a story of a business owner who shared the story of his daughter that failed in school and almost committed suicide.
Because she failed.
She failed, and she was texting her peers and asking how she's going to manage such shame going back to school. That was her issue, but she never had the conversation with her parents. And then she started talking about suicide with some of them. But what happened was that the parents were observant and were lucky to discover that there was a behavioral change.
Right.
Things that she usually would do, she stopped doing them, and she refrained from engaging. So luckily for them, they were able to take her phone and go through some of her messages, and that was how they found out. So as parents, as friends, we all have an important role to play, and we need to be observant.
There are persons who say that if I kept silent for too long, if you're not speaking, or if I'm not speaking with you for a number of days, and you know that I am this person who speaks, at least you should check up on me. There are persons who have said that to me. Check up on me to know what is going on with me. And you mentioned something about the story that she was a teenager.
Yeah.
And when you look at reports, persons who are under 30 are said to be the ones that are prone to suicide from reports. And we're wondering, is this about peer pressure? What exactly? These people haven't really seen life, so to speak. A majority of them aren't really engaged in working and all of that. So the pressure of life is not as much on them. And so a lot of persons are wondering, why is it that these people are the ones that fall within that gap?
Okay, so over the course of the week, we had a suicide discourse on Instagram. And we had a clinical psychologist talk about, the problems with self-awareness and ignorance. And then we got to a point where he shared that for teenagers that are transiting into adulthood, and this is, from 15 to 25, a lot of them they struggle with the transition period because they don't understand themselves. They have high expectations
of life,
what they ought to get, at a certain age. They are overly ambitious, and then because all of these things again, they are going through the process, and they don't understand what is really happening. So the change is really strange. So for someone who is expected, you live in a home of successful people, and the standard is that you need to graduate in the first class, or you need to come first in your class. Now that's the standard, with no words said to you. You know that your dad is a very brilliant. It would come out with, your mom, your cousins. That's the standard. Now here you are in your GS2, GS3 class, and you are struggling with mathematics. You can't go home to have such a conversation because you are expected to be a bright student. So in such a family, you realize that they won't entertain such conversations because they probably feel that we are bright, we found a way around. So the child goes back to school struggling with my parents. This is the standard. Here I am in school. Things are not, and then the expectations, they are falling short of the expectations, and they begin to feel ashamed of themselves.
Right.
So those are, you give a young teenager a task, ask him, maybe for instance, a child who has anxiety issues, you ask him or her to come and speak before an audience, and then in the course of making a presentation, you lose track of what you're saying. Committed hours to research and then here you are on the big day, you blank out. Such a child would go back home feeling really embarrassed, despite attempting to do something great, but he or she will see himself as a failure because here I am on the big day, I didn't deliver. Now, it will depend on the support system around at that time.
Very important.
To say, you know what, I'm rooting for you.
Yeah.
That was just one of it. But you know what, you did well with the opening, And when you go to the, I like the part that you even said it this way. I liked your, you know, just a glimpse, just hope, just make him see some good side of it. That, okay, yes, you didn't end the presentation well, but you did well with the opening. And then you can feel good.
That is still a process.
Yes,
you can still do better.
Yes.
At least you know now where you have failed, so you can improve on it. That's life. That's part of life. It's a process of life.
But there are high chances that, you know, when such a child, you know, blanks out, everybody's going to go like, woo.
Of course,
and then his peers are going to be like.
So that is where the support system
is essential. Yes.
Giving whoever that person is that's going through troubling times a ray of hope. So we need to build more of such systems across the board, especially with young people. Parents stepping in, especially. That is what we're saying now. And that is what the focus is this year. So what are plans to, or are there plans on how to ensure that we have that, having engagement, speaking on this, especially on a day like this, to commemorate the day?
Sure, we've been actively, for my organization, across all initiative for mental health and stigma eradication, we've been actively involved in raising awareness. We started with a 9-kilometer run. That was on the 4th, just to raise awareness. We had a suicide discourse on suicide prevention, and here we're ongoing now. We have a 2-day therapeutic workout session, and then we'll be concluding with a stakeholders dialogue.
Why the choice prevention of working out, race? Does that contribute to the well-being of any person who might be going through these issues?
So first of all, you know, we need to have suicide prevention conversations. They are so essential, that because we need to make people understand you are human. It's possible to have suicide ideations, but if you make them feel less of themselves just because they are thinking of taking their lives, you know, there's a problem. They will never come back to you to say anything. So nobody wants such an environment. And then the essence of exercise, workout, is that, you know, from what, because we also had a fitness expert, you know, tell us that there are chemicals that we release, such as endorphins and dopamine. You know, they make you feel good. Even when you are going through a lot, just take a walk or run or do some aerobics, and the feel good feeling, you know, just sustains you for another day. And that's like the goal. Just hang in there for one more day. One more day. Who knows? That could really transform everything. So and then someone also says that if you are not engaging in regular exercise on a daily basis, you are going to entertain mood swings.
Really?
There's a high chance that you are welcoming mood swings. And when you welcome mood swings, today you're happy, next second you're not happy, then you begin to have big issues around life. So that's why we infused, you know, exercise to the whole campaign, to also make people see the need for it. Yes, low mood, you don't feel good about your achievements, you feel that you should have. There are people who say, you know, midlife crisis, I'm tired, I'm single, I'm living my life for my dad, I'm tired, I want to be me, and you know, all of this. So for us, we feel that exercise is just one angle to it, but more importantly, we advise that you see a therapist if you need to.
But that's even another major issue with regards to this, because in this part of the world, we do not really see that as something that people should do, so to speak. When I remember speaking with a particular lady, and she said she went to see a psychologist somewhere, and people began to wonder what she came to do there. In fact, a psychiatrist actually, and people were wondering what she went to do there. That's why, is she nuts or something? And she had entertained suicidal thoughts and all of it. So she needed help, and she was seeking help. And now, how do we begin to, you know, ensure that we inculcate this as part of our system? There are pressures on every side for a lot of people, and the threshold to be able to, you know, and maintain their sanity differ. Everybody handles issues differently. But this aspect, in fact, we had a conversation yesterday where someone said she doesn't trust these people, talking about seeing a shrink and all of it. Talk to us about that aspect.
So I would say that we need to make it like I said, a lifestyle. If you, just like when you have symptoms of, persistent headache, you feel that you need to see a doctor. I think that's the next stage for everyone, especially in Nigeria. If you feel, you are going through some emotional imbalance, or you have traumas from the past that you think is affecting your present day, why not go see a therapist? Because they are at the best of, taking you out of those experiences and making you, live a fulfilled life. So I feel, seeing a therapist in this time is very essential, and it shouldn't. But unfortunately, again, there's so much stigma attached to, talking about suicide. So much stigma attached to seeing a psychotherapist or seeing a psychologist. So that's why we need to continue to have such conversations, partner with media houses to see that people understand that these things exist. Mental illness exists.
Right.
Suicide thoughts are possible.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that because you laugh all day, you are going to be free of life troubles.
Right. Right. That would be a fine place to leave the conversation. Oluwaseun Dosunmu, mental health advocate and executive director across All Initiative for Mental Health and Stigma Eradication. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.